Welcome to Inside Your County Government. I'm your host and community engagement coordinator, Doria Fleischer. I'm so excited to introduce this new series, Cracking the Code, a chance for our community to learn all about zoning and regulations here in Charles County, Maryland. Joining us as our co-host and coming in for all of these episodes to share her wisdom is Liz Theobalds, our wonderful deputy county attorney. Liz, thanks for being here today.
And thank you so much for inviting me today.
Well, this is actually, you get a lot of credit for this, right? This is your brainchild. You came up with this idea for a series where we could educate the community about zoning and regulations.
And thank you, because it really is something that's important to me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the questions that we get on a day-to-day basis really focus on the fact that people really don't know what they can and cannot do, why they can and cannot do things, and they feel like the county is just out to get them. And that's not the case. So hopefully this is going to be an opportunity for us to share some information, point people in a direction so that therefore they can have a better guide to what it is that they can do, particularly people who are just joining us here in Charles County.
This is beautiful and exactly what engagement should be to me, right? There's a little bit of education, a little bit of feedback. We try to work together to make this a really collaborative process. So that's wonderful. Liz, before we get started, tell us a little bit about what you do in county government, how long you've been here, and how this conversation ties into your work.
Okay, so I'm the deputy county attorney. I have been with county government for 31 years, actually last week.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful adventure here in Charles County. Like I said, I moved down here when I started working here. And ever since then, I've gotten to know so much about the county. I've enjoyed a lot of the rural development that I've seen happening. And it's what it is that I do now. I'm very happy now to be involved with a lot of zoning and enforcement regulations. I work with other boards and commissions to really help people understand the codes that guide how it is that we do the things that we do.
So you're really a beautiful translator between this kind of heavy technical language and making it accessible to the community. Is that an accurate statement?
That's a fair statement. Unfortunately, it also becomes an issue when somebody's like, oh, I'm going to court. Oh, well, let's see how we can avoid having you go to court.
Beautiful. My goal in life, avoid going to court, right?
Yes.
Liz, can you start by explaining, please, because we're just going to do kind of an overview this episode. We're not going to have any other special guests. We're not going to focus on any special topics. What are zoning and regulations when we say that word? And then I'm going to ask you the why we have them in Charles County, and then we'll do some definitions that people can learn that'll help make this make more sense.
Okay. So zoning laws end up being the local government's mechanism to really control the development of our land use in our community. It's designed to make sure it is that we don't have competing uses like right next door to each other.
Okay.
So the main things that we have are agricultural uses, particularly here in Charles County. We have commercial uses, industrial uses, and all of those can be incompatible if they're like right next door to each other.
So all these puzzle pieces that exist, we have to make sure that when you put them into the puzzle, we have a really good Charles County picture. Is that an accurate statement?
Exactly. And something that really satisfies the community so that the community members can be proud of where it is that they live.
Beautiful. So these regulations exist for a reason.
Yes.
Where are they written? How do they exist? How do people know that they're there?
So there's this interesting thing called the Charles County Code.
Okay.
It actually can be found pretty easily on the Charles County website by going to the search button and saying Charles County Code. It'll lead you there.
Okay.
That's a whole lot of legal mumbo jumbo.
I was going to say, you said that and I just imagine what it looks like and I cringe. Nobody wants to read that.
Nobody ever wants to read it. But really, all of our zoning laws are housed in Section 297 of the code. And one of the things that I really am proud of our staff for is that if you had a question about our code, you'd be able to reach out to the staff of Charles County government, and they'll be able to go ahead and help you understand what it is that they translate to, what applications you need to go ahead and submit, how it is that they apply to you. So I understand the law is always mumbo jumbo, but we have a lot of really talented and dedicated staff really interested in helping you understand what it is that you might have a question about.
That's beautiful. All right. So some of the definitions.
Okay.
What are people going to hear throughout this podcast series and video series?
So you're going to hear something about regulations and ordinances. I got to tell you, those legal mumbo jumbo words. They're always thrown out, but they're really variations of the same things. They are the laws that are written out that outline what it is you can and cannot do. Sometimes we use those terms interchangeably, but I think what anybody needs to take away is that there's a standard. The standard was established by the county commissioners over time to say this is is what you can do and this is what you can't do.
Okay, beautiful. What other words might people hear? I'm flipping to you. Made me such a nice glossary. I love this. So when we talk about permits, what's a permit?
Okay, permits, and I do want to be sure that I'm clear. It applies all over the place. It's basically an administrative approval to conduct an activity, whether it's for an event, if you wanted to have a large event. It's for something even like grading or stormwater management. Anytime it is, and this is one of those amazing things that I get questions about. It's like, well, wait a second. Why is it there are people out here inspecting why it is that I'm moving my driveway?
Right.
Because it is something that needs to be permitted. Permits, it involves stormwater management. It really governs things for health and safety.
So you moving, like you own your driveway. Yep. It is yours. But you moving your driveway could have an impact on
the movement of water, access to the road, other things like that can affect other people. So you do need to have a permit for.
And that goes back to that kind of puzzle pieces, right? That like, I know it's my puzzle piece of Charles County, but if I start changing the edges of my puzzle piece, the county no longer fits together in the picture frame.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that goes the same way with sheds. So you have this wonderful piece of property. I want to put a shed. Well, you know what? It probably has to be not in a septic recovery area. It probably has to be a certain amount of feet away from your neighbors because, I mean, they may not want to have it. Or one of the issues I ran into not too long ago is that somebody said, oh, I don't like those trees there. I'm going to take out the trees and I'm going to go ahead and put in a shed. Well, the problem is that was a forest conservation area. And they weren't supposed to go ahead and remove them. So those are all things that require a permit, and to reach out to say, can I do this activity here, is something that will keep you in compliance with the laws.
Beautiful. Okay. Let's use the scary word. Violation.
Violations, it sounds so ugly, but it's really just it's non-compliance.
Okay.
And what we want to do is make sure that you are in compliance. A violation is when you've gone ahead and said, well, I don't really know what it is that I need to comply with, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. And all of a sudden you have somebody knocking at your door saying, oh, you're in violation of the law. Scary, but the bottom line is you do need to go ahead and comply with something. You need to either comply with the laws as they're written or with the permit. Say you've gone ahead and applied for a permit, which is an administrative approval, and it has certain terms and conditions. You need to have somebody look at it at one stage or another.
Okay.
And if you don't comply with the terms of that permit, that's a violation as well.
Okay.
Everything carries a sanction, but you need to make sure it is that you're in compliance.
Okay. And my brain's already going, we have a couple of episodes in the future planned out, but my brain's already going to, we should kind of talk through what that looks like if you get a violation. So I'll make a note, we'll talk about that later. Because I think if we remove some of the scary, that this isn't just, all of a sudden the violation patrol comes and knocks on your door, but we talk through that. So future episode, get ready, Liz.
Sounds good.
My brain's going faster than this episode can keep up. I'm sorry. Talk about, please, inspections and inspectors, another word that people might hear that pops up through this series.
And I'm glad you went ahead and brought that up because the county does have inspectors who are empowered to enforce the zoning laws. And generally, people feel like the government is really intrusive when they're performing inspections. But I think I need to really emphasize here, there are such zoning laws that regulate uses that have to be enforced for the well-being of the community as a whole. Earlier, we talked about somebody wanting to go ahead and move their driveway. Stormwater management ends up being a very big issue here, and to the extent that we do have regular inspections for stormwater management, making sure that the ponds work, making sure that the ponds are functioning in ways that they're supposed to, taking water away from houses. Those are regular inspections it is that the county does have to enforce. But on the other hand, there are another type of inspections, which I think everybody needs to be aware of. It's not just the government peeping behind their fences.
Right.
They may, in fact, have a neighbor who's concerned that an activity is going on and whether or not it's consistent with what goes on in the neighborhood. So inspections are something that can come from two different sources. One, because it's a regulation. We have to maintain our stormwater management and compliance with stormwater
We're checking it all the time to make sure that it's doing its job.
Is water flowing like it's supposed to, so it's not ponding in somebody's basement. And the other part of it is there may be complaints that we receive, and inspectors have to go out to enforce to make sure that the zoning activities that are appropriately zoned for an area are in fact not occurring.
Beautiful. These are some good, I think, words that just get us on the same page as everybody. So I love it. Liz, we're going to have a bunch of different episodes, and you mentioned some like making the additions to your house and driveway stuff. What's the number one thing that you would want everybody listening and viewing right now to know? If you could have like one piece of wisdom that you impart, whether it's a new homeowner, a homeowner who's been here a while, somebody who's renting, anybody in Charles County, what's one thing that you'd want them to learn from this series?
That there is always something to learn about your area, your community, the house that you have in your community, and that you are part of a community. You have a piece of property, you want it to be what you want it to be, but there are certain rules within which you can make those changes. Mm-hmm. So what I do want everybody to get out of this is that here in Charles County, we do try to be helpful, but you need to go ahead and ask. Make sure it is that you reach out to whichever agency it is, whether it's for animal control to understand licensing, or whether or not it's for zoning to understand an activity or an event that can occur. But understand that we here in Charles County are committed to educating and making sure that your community experience is the best.
I love it. Thank you. And I'm so glad that this series is going to be a great chance to provide some of that education. And I'm very excited that as people are listening and watching this, we're going to hear some of the questions that people have had that maybe they didn't even know they had, or they didn't know where to ask. So to me, this two-way engagement of being involved and hearing what residents are saying while also being able to give them helpful information is what makes my job so exciting. And I'm thrilled to be embarking on it with you.
Thank you so much again for inviting me. This is going to be a wonderful project, and I sure hope that people get a lot out of it.
Ditto. Liz Theobalds, our Deputy County Attorney, thanks for being here. And thank you, Charles County, for tuning in. As always, we hope that Cracking the Code has lots of great episodes coming up that will help you understand all about zoning and regulations here in Charles County. Thanks so much. Take care, stay safe, and stay engaged.
Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, search Charles County Government on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And be sure to like and subscribe. We're also available on YouTube. Search Charles County Commissioners. And stay connected for all county news, information, and programs by visiting www.charlescountymd.gov/stay connected.